Welcome to another episode of Alpha Intuition Podcast. We're here to help you become the CEO of your life. I'm your host, Keisha L, Blair. And today I'm going to be bringing back somebody who is truly an inspirational guest. But before I introduce her, I want you guys to know that if this is your first time listening, please make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can get notified when we drop new episodes, which is usually every Saturday morning. Now, Alpha Intuition family. Not only is my guest a renowned mind wellness coach, but she is also the author of the book Wisdom in Red and has just released her second book titled The Boogeyman Effect. Her new book titles How Fear and Unfounded Suspicions Can Sabotage Even the Healthiest Relationships, offering readers a path towards healing and emotional growth. Her passion for guiding others through spiritual and emotional challenges is at the heart of everything that she does. Her wisdom has touched countless lives. And today I'm going to just discuss with her just some insights from her newest book, The Boogeyman Effect. So Alpha Intuition family, it is my privilege to welcome back my amazing co-host, Essence Yarbrough. What is up, Essence girl? You've been on the world tour doing all kinds of stuff. What's been up?
You know what? You give the best introductions. Do you treat everybody this well? I think you do. It's just amazing. I don't know how you come up with it all, but you find the right words, girl. You got me over here wanting to cry.
Oh, you're so silly.
Thank you. No, thank you for that intro. No, I am back from Costa Rica. It was really, really nice. It was just some time to, get away with, family, being with the family and having to just finish some projects, my Boogeyman Effect project, among other projects on my website. And then it's just good to just get it done. And now I'm back and I'm fully focused and I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be with you. You know, I love it. Girl, you my girl. You be coaching me.
Girl. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Lord. I'm about to choke. I'm all look. Let me clutch my pearls, girl. I'm all choked up.
Look. That is hilarious.
So, but I wanted to just talk about you in Costa Rica, girl. I don't know where that something just hit my throat. Oh Lord. No. So I noticed on some of your pictures down in Costa Rica, you were it was a waterfall or something that you were under.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just tell me briefly. So just before we get into talking about your book, just tell me about your experience in Costa Rica.
It was fabulous. It was really a place where I was able to completely disconnect not completely, but I was able to just disconnect. I didn't worry about my phones unless I was just listening to some podcasts or something like that. And, listening to you and listening to some of my other favorites and just kind of just relaxing, not worried about my obligations in America. There was nothing I could do. I was forced for a month to just unravel, declutter my thinking, organize what I had right in front of me and just work on that. So it was beautiful. The food was great. The people were girl. It was interesting. It was funny because I was on the Limon side, which is the Caribbean side where all the Black folks are. And then we were on the Pacific side. And the Pacific side, it's more of like, I guess what they would consider like the white people in Costa Rica. So it was like that side. And it was just really beautiful. You just got to see a different culture, or not you. I just got to see a different culture, just seeing how similar the Caribbean side was to, American communities out here. There is a lot of poverty, but also a lot of natural beauty. And so you see like, a lot of the beauty in people and how they give and how hearty their meals are. And you're like, man, like, people are only getting this little bit of money for all of this. You know what I mean? And so it just makes you appreciate, the hustle. It makes you appreciate, people just having to get things done. Like, regardless, you can't complain about it. I got to do what I got to do. And you see a lot of that out there. It was great. It was good.
Wow. Yeah, that just to be able to disconnect or being forced to disconnect because of where you are, the infrastructure and different things like that. That's how I felt when I was down in St. Lucia when I went there last year. And it was just kind of awkward at first, but after I was there for 10 days, I wasn't there for an entire month. But after I would say by the third day, I didn't even realize that I didn't really have my phone because I was actually communicating with the staff at the resort. And I know you stay with family, so you didn't have the luxury of being in a resort, but just to be able just to enjoy the environment and see it from a different perspective, it does make you appreciate some of the amenities that we have back here that they don't have over in other countries, smaller countries like that.
Facts, all facts. And then just like you mentioned, the waterfall, being able to just, man, that waterfall was so wonderful because it looks so much bigger than what I posted. It's actually way bigger than what it looks like on camera. The water is so clear. And then you just, you get, and then the water was warm. It's not like Atlantic, like it's, I mean, not Atlantic. It's not like the Pacific waters of like LA. Go, it's not the same. So it's just warm. It's just therapeutic. It's beautiful. And then that water at that particular waterfall is just full of minerals. So you just drink that water. It wasn't a salt water or anything like that. You just drink straight from it.
What?
So you just swim and drink. Yeah. So it was, when I tell you, it was so wonderful. I know, right? Right. And then, we get to, just eat right out the earth and, reach out and just, there's a tree and grab this. Now, it's still a whole lot of processed stuff. I did not expect that. So a lot of stuff mentally, I'm like, well, you want to get away, but then the processed foods still kind of follow you. They are all out there at every store. All this processed sugar, all this processed, meat process, so that right there, thinking about the mindset and how important it is to stay away from that stuff. When you're out there, you still have to be mindful to be self-controlled to protect your gut and your brain all over again, just like in America.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Makes it, sounds like a great place for me to have a CEO mindset reset retreat.
It would be wonderful. We need to do that. I'm telling you, we all need, come on now. We were looking at land for that out there. We were looking for land while we were there. It was beautiful.
Nice. All right. So I want to get into this new book that you just released, that you just dropped, called The Boogeyman Effect. So let me ask this question. What inspired you to write the book, The Boogeyman Effect? Which, by the way, before you answer that, I want people to know that I'm going to put in the chat where they can go and purchase your book as well. So if you guys are wondering where you can go get this book, I'll let you know. But question, what inspired you to write The Boogeyman Effect?
My own experience, for one, and then girlfriends of mine, guy friends, just how we have a tendency to really lose our best self out of having insecurities, out of having, just not being sure of ourselves with certain people, whether we've chosen the wrong person or we have our fears, we've been hurt in the past, we've, been traumatized by certain scenarios that have occurred, certain events. And so it's kind of like, if you have an issue with jealousy, I've seen the jealousy, I've seen the insecurities, I've been in otherwise healthy relationships that went sour just because they weren't able to just tell me, clearly what they were going through, how they felt, or I wasn't able to say how I felt because of our fears, which I call boogeyman. So when you think of the boogeyman, it's something that scares you. It's imaginary. It's not really there, And so these are the things in relationships I kept seeing was these things are not really there, but yet I'm insecure. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Are they really cheating? Are they really, looking at me, funny? Do they really like me? Do they really love me? Those types of things. So that's what led me to it, which is constantly seeing this in relationships, really being, just feeling out of control of oneself to the point where you end up self-sabotaging a relationship. I've been through that. And a lot of us have been through that. And I think so many of us go through it and we don't have an awareness that we are anxiously moving through a lot of relationships.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Can you explain just with the effects that people experience that created the boogeyman effect? So how does that manifest in relationships, and tell us why you think it's so damaging?
It's damaging because it's self-sabotaging. But what you would see is you side-eye someone if they come in just a little bit later from work. Okay, where you really been? You came in or an hour late, 30 minutes late, but you don't want to sound insecure. You may say something or you may not, but you're like, well, And then you think the most negative thought. You catastrophize. You say, oh, well, he's got somebody at work, or he met up with somebody after work, or he stopped, with a little freaky link. People, it's funny that people will think these things, but maybe not actually say them out loud. Or you have some guys, well, where you been? Or some girls, well, how come you didn't come home sooner? Why didn't you call me? And we feel insecure. And there's nothing wrong. Insecurity is normal. Sometimes it can be very helpful, in the sense, hey, I'm just saying I would like some reassurance. And I know that I am this type of person that likes communication. So stuff like that, you'll see that, or you'll see, for instance, you believe that somebody has to be a certain type of way in order to make you feel the most secure. So now you're trying to control what somebody is doing to make you feel more at ease, even when they're doing everything that they can do already. It's like you cannot please that person. It's like, no matter what, I'm telling you I'm not cheating. I'm telling you I'm not talking to anybody else. Well, who's texting you? That type of, and that's what it looks like.
So do you think so? So relationships don't start off like that, or do they?
So I do believe some of them do. I believe some of them, but not. There are some red flags you can see in the beginning. Like if every time, like if the person is always checking their phone, and then they're like, hey, who's texting you, or well, who are you talking to? Little things like that. You'll get little comments like that sometimes, but you still don't know, because it could just be someone wanting you to be more courteous when you're meeting with somebody. But ultimately, it's like you want to have fun in the beginning. So you're kind of keeping that down. You kind of know you have a problem with that, but you're just like, oh, I'm just going to enjoy this person. It's fun. It's, we're spontaneous, whatever we're having. The energy is good. We're more caught up in that energy at first. So for some people, you don't see it, even if they do show red flags, it's like, or like they text a lot. Well, how come you didn't text me today? You might get somebody that's texting you too much, calling you too much.
Yeah, because I'm going to say that, okay, if I meet someone, let's just say we're like a couple of weeks to a month in, and this person is already asking me about who's calling me, bruh. You talking about red flags? That's like, that's a red flag, a red stop sign, a red light.
Yeah.
It's like, no. If you're starting off early like this, now to some people that may be intriguing. To some people, they may want that type of person who checks in on them. Where I think it may be a little overbearing. Somebody else may like that, to where they enjoy somebody doing that to them, but not everybody is like that. So what do you say to those people who know that, okay, it's a deal breaker for me if someone doesn't allow me to check their phone, or it's a deal breaker for me if someone doesn't let me see who's texting their phone, or if they turn their phone upside down. Those things are deal breakers. What would you say to someone who has that as a boundary that they want to set? Is that a good thing or a bad thing going into a relationship from the beginning?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with expressing that at all, to be honest with you. I believe that it's like you said, there are some people, they're good to communicate with that and they're like okay with it. But then, like you said, there's some that are not. And you have to just kind of have the conversations to feel it out. But I believe people should do this more towards the beginning, obviously, of the relationship, which a lot of people don't. And so they just kind of go into their attraction and into the relationship, and then they just start having the manifestations of those thoughts, of those values, of those beliefs, of those boundaries without expressing them. If you don't express those boundaries, well, then you're asking for them to be crossed at some point, and then you hold it against the person for crossing them. So you have to communicate what your boundaries are as early on as possible in the most respectful, way. And then if that person does not agree with that, you simply understand, you make the choice then at that point to say, do I want to move forward with this person, or is this a me problem, right? Sometimes it's a them problem, but sometimes it's a you problem, right? So you determine, how extreme is this? Like, do I have insecurities? Like, do I need validation every 5 minutes? Can I slack back on that? And then when you realize, okay, no, these are just my boundaries. And if they don't agree with that, you just move on. And a lot of people don't want to move on. They want to stay in what they have going on with that person. And they think that they can move on without that boundary in place, and it typically doesn't go in the long run.
Find yourself sleeping with the enemy.
You will, even if that's a really great person, right? But even if that's a really great person, that's just not their boundary, or it's okay, yeah, you can check my phone, but I didn't say you could check my phone. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I could check you. Excuse me. I don't want to check your phone. I don't want to check your phone, but you're not going to check mine. Is what I was trying to say.
Absolutely not. Oh, so you want me to do as you say, but not do as you do. Oh, well,
right.
So I'm going to say this, that stuff like that, it almost depends on how much you like that other person, because we're willing to accept things from someone that we're really into. Because if it's someone that, let's just say, it's not even at the beginning of the relationship, let's just say you're 6 months in, and it's somebody that you really like, you're really into from a woman's perspective, that you've already imagined walking down the aisle with this person, and all of a sudden he just comes in the house one day and flips the script, and who you talking to, who you take, because of how you feel about that person, you may be more inclined to just not even think anything of it and be more accepting of it because it's somebody that you're into. Now let's turn it around, where you got somebody to where after 6 months, you really about ready to get rid of this person. He walk in and say, who you talking to? He's gonna be like, what?
They say that, you're like, okay, yeah, nah, we're not gonna do this, and you just ready to cold turkey. You cold turkey on them. That's it. Ain't no explanation needed. I don't think we need. Somebody did that to me once. So this actually brings up an excellent point, Keisha. I remember I was in a relationship once, and this was very, very powerful. And I mentioned not this relationship, but I talk about this type of scenario in the book, where it's interesting because this particular person just kind of did a cut me off cold turkey type of thing after we had been together for a few months, about 4 months or so. That's that 3-4 month mark. You're like, okay, certain things I just don't want to deal with. So this person, because of their past and what their ex was doing, which she had a lot of boogeymen, and was always blaming him for cheating when he was not guilty of that. He was loyal to her. But because of his personality, and he's not a, extra validating type of person, she probably had she had a lot of boogeymen. So she put that on him, and he basically did not realize he had been projecting that onto me. So just because when I'm talking to him, he's in another country, and I'm like, hey, what's up? We haven't talked in like 2 weeks. How's it going? Because I know business is going on. I know that this and that is happening. So what's up? Let's check in. How are we doing? Honey, he was just like, I am not cheating. I'm not doing that now here. I'm like, okay, well, thank you. He thought that I was trying to check on him. Are you cheating? Are you out there with another woman? Are you see what I'm saying? Because that's what was done to him so many times before. So he projected that. He took basic relationship, checking in, conversation, just understanding where each other was standing in the moment, in that present moment. He was bringing in the past into those present moments and saying, no, you're just like such and such. I mean, he didn't say that, but we had a conversation about it later, and he was like, oh, I didn't know that is what I was doing, and so, yeah, we have to watch that.
So now we don't want to give too much away in the book, but
it's a lot.
So what advice would you give someone who may be struggling with just with constant fear or suspicion of their partner in a relationship?
Well, one of the number one things is self-awareness, and not merely a self-awareness of what's going on around you in the relationships that you're in, but a self-awareness of, dang, do I know myself? Because the more you know yourself, the more you're actually able to be honest about what you truly need. And then you'll figure out, what do I need out of traumas and negativity, out of past, negative events, versus what do I need out of just decency and having a value for myself, having, the traits that are healthy within myself that I can be proud of to share in a relationship. Am I even ready for a relationship? What type of relationships do I struggle with? How am I with my parents? How am I with my siblings? How am I in business? How am I with my friends? these things, all correlate to how you will act with someone in a relationship, because let's just be honest, that other partner becomes your father or your mother to some degree, because we look for that rather in our partner to some degree. We look for some type of similarities or comfort. We look for the friend in our partner. So how are you with your other friends when you're down at your worst, when people are seeing you a certain way? How do you correlate with your friends? How will you correlate with your partner? So when it comes to business, when it comes to being with your partner and having to handle responsibilities, and how you are around your home, do you handle business? So knowing how you are in those relationships will help you to really get to know who you are in your romantic relationship. And being honest, the more you know yourself, the more you can control yourself. You can have the emotional regulation going on instead of moving in relationships dysregulated so often. So that is a big thing. I'd say start with knowing who you are. You have to do that. If they got to rewind that, go do it, because it's important. It's number one. I could say go get therapy and all that stuff. Read my book, The Boogeyman Effect. That's a start.
So you mentioned a minute ago about trust issues. And
Yes.
so someone already has trust issues going in. They're probably just going to be magnified if they don't deal with them on the front end. So when you talk about, self-awareness, how would someone deal with that on the front end before they even enter into a relationship when it comes to trust?
Well, people are very aware of how people in the past made them feel. And I don't even want to say made them feel, but how they responded or reacted to other people and the things that they've gone through. They know, hey, how did I act when I was cheated on, and how did that affect me after that last relationship? Right? So let's just say, for the average people who have come out of past relationships, do we stop and actually say, do we review those relationships? Do we observe who we were and ask, was I honest about who I was and what I really wanted? Or did I make a lot of compromises and sacrifices that actually built resentment? You see what I mean? So those things help to create mistrust in going into your next relationships. So if I never got over, the fact that, or I'll say two things. I never got over the fact that this person hurt me and did this, and they were so sneaky, or they just weren't honest about how they really felt about me, blah, blah, blah. If it could be that, or it could be I was dishonest. I've been a horrible person. I've not treated people right. I've cheated, and therefore I don't trust others. I had an ex-boyfriend told me one time, I said, how come you're not settling down? And I actually mentioned it in the book. It's like, he says, because I've done so many women wrong that I just know it's going to come back around to me. And I don't think I'll be able to bear that.
He's running from karma. That's what that is.
That's what I put in the book. He talked about karma. And girl, that man wasn't believing in nothing, but he believed in some karma.
He believed in being honest and believing in being a good person to somebody else. So you're just afraid that somebody's going to do to you what you've done to countless amount of people. That's interesting.
Yes. So there are different levels of mistrust here. It can go from something very extreme to something very small and quiet, but it becomes sinister, you don't really like how I look. I saw how you were looking at me when I wore that, or you see what I mean? It could be any little thing, girl. You never know what would kick people off, because you never know what's really in their history, in their past. So to some degree, when in relationships, you go in with a level of grace, you know what I mean? And then upon investigating more, like, okay, there's something more going on here. And then sometimes you just can't help other people, or you need more help yourself. And I do talk about that in the book, about when it's a greater problem, like when it's a disorder.
Yeah. All right. So I want to switch lanes. I want to ask you about your writing journey, because this is your second book. First one, Wisdom in Red.
Really, it's not. It's really not. But I've got a bunch of books. But yeah, the ones I've actually putting out.
Yeah, their second book that you released. So how was the writing process for this one different? For the Boogeyman Effect, different from Wisdom in Red?
So Wisdom in Red was it's kind of like Wisdom in Red was done. That was more in my spiritual place, and I'm still in that spiritual place, probably even more so now. But it was more of while I was going through some serious trial. You know what I mean? Boogeyman Effect, it's me. I've come out. And it's just like I've gone through it, been through it, and I'm like, okay, and I, even my other book, The Sunny Day Mentality, that I mentioned in a previous episode that we did, that one's just not come out yet. But these were done in a much more healthier headspace, where I have clarity, and I've gotten onto the other side now. And of course, we always on a journey, right? Always down a path. But, so that's the biggest difference, is that I'm really able to talk to people from a place of solution. Like, oh my gosh. And Wisdom in Red wasn't a book of solution other than the word of God itself. You know what I mean? Like that spiritual solution to getting to know Christ, because that is what it was for me, explaining that process. Mm-hmm.
So with the Boogeyman Effect, do you have any spiritual references in there?
I do, but it's more so, I do have those in there, but what's interesting, it's based more on the reality of what you are in. Because I know that a lot of people, they're not going to scripture, so even though I do bring scripture in it to reference to it, to center it into this book, at the same time, it's still like, what are you doing when you're not thinking of scripture? So it's about what your default responses become. If you want to get closer to Christ, get Wisdom in Red, right? But if you want to come to understand and become more, you want to control the flesh a lot more, and you're not doing it through a spiritual method, you're not like checking yourself spiritually, then this will check you naturally. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like, whoa, this is giving, science, this is giving, and it's not like exhaustive with scientific stuff. That's just not me. But what it is doing is just giving you the understanding, the scientific evidence behind, hey, look, this is what, you can do on top of your prayer. On top of this, you have to apply faith. You can have faith, but faith without works is dead. And the works typically occur through this flesh. So we have to practice self-control. We have to practice things that give us self-control. So, doing things over and over again, practicing certain habits and observations help us to gain, or I guess you could say, bear the fruit of self-control, like one of the fruit of the spirit, right? We end up seeing the fruit of the new behaviors that we take on intentionally by changing our brain, rewiring to have healthier relationships with ourselves, with God, and with others. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So when you talk about just personally, your spiritual journey. So what are some of the spiritual practices that you use to stay grounded, to help you heal, to even want to write this book?
I pray a lot. I pray, like, I just be talking to God, but I also just pray. And then I get in the word. I'm not going to front. Like, I really get in the word, and it doesn't even have to be about anything in particular. I'm just it's just about fellowshipping in the culture of Christ. So when you get in the scriptures, that's Christ. That's the word. He is the word, And so it's like, I know that the word doesn't go out and return void. It does the thing that it was sent for it to do. So when I'm reading the word, it enters into me to where I am able to gain a wisdom. That wisdom works itself, right? And then I'm able to see the manifestation of that wisdom in my life. So I'm not saying that I always pick right and do right, but I turn right around and go to that word, and I see where I messed up, and I'm like, dang, okay, Lord. Or I'll pray, and he'll just be like, why didn't you come to me about this? I told you should. But that's the whole thing, is that he helps us to gain a self-awareness. You know what I mean? And an awareness, a reminder of what the word says. So that's what I do. I go back to, and then I also I fellowship with those who also know already. They've been there, done that. They tell me, they talk to me, they see my habits. You know what I mean? That's just like you, girl. You see some of my habits, you're like, hey, Essence, I'm telling you, boom, 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 boom. So that circle of wisdom, is vital. It's vital. The Bible says that, with wise counsel come many victories. What more is there to say? Like, I got to go to my wise counsel. And it's not just the Holy Ghost. Everybody be like, oh, that's the Holy Ghost. No, honey, you need some people who've been there, done that. So, yeah.
Oh man. All right. So, do you journal a lot?
I do.
I
I
was
do
going to ask
journal a
that
lot.
before you answer. Look, I'm going to say because I look at your website and you got about 10 different journals on here. I'm like, bro, this is awesome with different topics. So I'm like, she must journal a lot. So talk
I
about some of the
do.
journals that you offer on your website. Which, by the way, I'm gonna put this
So,
website up here while we're talking too, so people can see what your website is. But go ahead.
oh, cool. Thank you. So yes, I've got a thought journal, which is actually really good in connection with this book. And if people get the boogeyman, or when people get the boogeyman effect, it's if you like, you could also purchase actually at a discount my thought journal. So
Mm,
those journals, I have my thought journal, I've got my ADHD journal, I've got my sex journal. Now, when it comes to uh, the thought journal, I really like people having that because it breaks down, especially in relationships, it breaks down 12 cognitive distortions, basically where you have distorted thinking, distorted perceptions, and you might
mhm,
not realize that. But what you find in your life is that things, you're not getting the results that are healthy for you. And so you make these same pattern mistakes and you're like, why am I ending up on this wrong side of things all the time, wrong side of the relationships? Why am I not getting the fulfillment? So sometimes, and this is just with anything, why am I not getting the job that I like? Why am I not getting that satisfaction? Why am I not getting satisfaction in my relationships with my parents or how I connect with other people? Why do I always get the arguing with people? People don't understand me. You might feel like the victim. You might feel like the bully, whatever it might be. Well, a lot of times when we're in these, experiencing these relationships, we realize that we have these hard lines of thought, like, you know, if this person doesn't show me this amount of affection, then they're not right. Well, that's black or white thinking. That's that all or nothing. I don't want it if it's not going to be da 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 da. People that don't know how to move. Uh, if you don't, well, if you're thinking that way, you're stupid. It's like that can really interrupt and create stonewalling in relationships, whether
mhm,
romantic or otherwise. And so the thought journal is really powerful because it helps you to kind of see. I give scenarios, I give examples, and I give, exercises. Got to have some exercises to kind of work it through. And it's just very simple. So it's kind of, even though it's a journal, it's actually kind of like an ebook at the same time because of how it gives information. But it's really powerful. So those are just some of the, I think, and then I've got a children's book on there that also helps with the perceptions of your kids as a
mhm,
father and a mother, and how your kids can perceive each parent and how that can get in the way, but how the parent can communicate with the child. And this more so with the father to the child in this particular book, about the mother and the child and how they have played different roles for that child. So it's pretty, I love my journals. People like a sex journal. What you doing with a sex journal and you a
what you do
Christian?
with it? Well,
Girl,
Christians have.
so
I mean, how you think other people get here? But anyway, people just look. It be folks that ain't Christians that want to talk about what Christians need to be doing. So we already know this. We ain't even gonna go there. Not in this episode.
I know.
But
I
that's
know.
like we tell you how to cook, and I don't even know how to boil water. But anyway, back to the sex journal. So the sex journal. Tell us about the sex journal and tell me what's something that we could possibly do with, because I see it ain't for $10. So
Yeah,
yeah, what
the
I'm just
sex.
saying now. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I ain't trying to be journaling while I'm in that moment. Lord forgive me as a Christian, but I'm not having sex and journaling at the same time. So talk to me about the sex journal and tell me what we putting
You
in
know
it.
what? It's very awesome that you say that because it's so. I wonder why you
Now,
even
wait a
say
minute, hold
that.
on. Wait. Oh. Let me journal something real quick. Okay, I'm back.
Wait, I gotta remember this move. So it's important that you said that though, because the whole point is the journal is to basically observe why you are doing what you're doing and how you came about doing what you do. So it's actually preventive thought before you even get into the bedroom. I mean, you've already been into the bedroom 50 times, but it doesn't matter. You take that journal and you're like, dang, why am I doing this? What do I really want? Again, it's about knowing self. Like, what am I taking care of my body while I'm doing this? You know what I mean? Like, this is my journey. How much attention am I taking to care for my body within and deep within? You know, like, so as a woman or as a man, I'm out here doing this, right? But is this really like satisfying other than just the immediate sex? Because there are a lot of women out there that have sex and they've never had an orgasm, right? You have men out there that are having sex, but they're just kind of doing it because it's like available to them. It's not like, oh, you know, and what actually sparked that journal, one of the things that sparked that journal was this gentleman that I met. He was a very attractive guy. I could tell he was probably in like 30 something, and he was like 35. And he was just like, yeah, that's just like I had sex with this girl in the parking lot. And I'm like, sir, sir. Right. So I kind of just asked him a series of questions. And by the time we were done talking, he said, oh my God. He said, I've never thought about any of this. He's like, he just was just like, it just flabbergasted him that he was just having sex. Like, he was not even thinking about what direction, what types of women. He just thought if she's fine, it's good. If you know what I mean? And that was it.
Well,
but then by the time,
you're not
right,
thinking about self-serving.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He wasn't even thinking of himself. He was just moving in his base flesh nature, which is enmity towards God. Our flesh has a natural disdain against the will of God, according to the scriptures, right? So being mindful of that, we're like, huh, wait a minute. So it's not working to actually give me what God wants. It's just working to just do what it's just programmed to do. So whatever the program has been, the flesh, thank you. Yes. Whatever the brain has been programmed to do through experiences, belief systems, you know, not checking our thoughts, all that stuff goes right back to how we behave in this body. And a lot of stuff, that's why I talk about people just changing their default. Changing your default only occurs through changes of behavior. You can have like a mental moment and be like, oh my gosh, a come to Jesus moment, we call them. But you can have that come to Jesus moment and still ain't really changed. No pun intended. So like, right, Lord Jesus, help us, protect Jesus, Lord, you. But you know, that's the whole thing. It's like, at the end of the day, it's just, and it's not even like, I put a couple of scriptures at the back that had come to me, you know, in this process of doing that sex journal. It's very simple. That's not more of an ebook type of thing. It's just very informative with some probing prompts, and it's just really great. It's like, it's 30 prompts, 30 or 31, I can't remember, but and they're just, and you just write them, and then you could always, and then that's the thing, you could always go back and just write in under those same prompts as your mindset might shift, and you get to see the differences. So, you know, that's who we have sex with is very important.
Well, so, and I was just thinking, since we're talking about the sex journal, that depending on what did you say? You said something about going deep within. Well, depending on you know, how far a person's emotion goes deep within and how they feel about that other person, that could determine how strong their boogeyman effect could be as well. Because now that you are so intimately involved with this person, it has triggered you mentally to where now, because you're having some type of sense of insecurity because you don't want to lose this person. So all of a sudden now your spidey senses are even more so heightened than what they were at the beginning. And you already came into the relationship with trust issues.
Everything you just said, right? Amazing. Everything you just said. And then add on top of that, understanding that as you go more and more into what you were just saying, doing all of that, you're losing more of yourself and what you really want. And it's because you did not stick in the very beginning to what you knew your boundaries needed to be, if you had even realized what boundaries you needed to put in place in the first place.
So now let me ask you this. Do you think that sometimes people don't stick to their boundaries because they're thinking that if I do XYZ, I'll change A, B, C, D about this person. So therefore, I'm going to not stick to my boundaries because I know if I go and do this, it's going to change this person. So you're already going in with a different mindset thinking you're going to change somebody. All the while, you need to be trying to change yourself.
And here's the thing. That's what I asked. How are they changing for you? And you can have that conversation with that person. Hey, what are some things that we're compromising for each other here? That's healthy. You know, all right, what are your boundaries? Am I crossing your boundaries? Am I adhering to your boundaries? Are these healthy boundaries? But people are afraid to have those conversations because in our minds, we don't want to move the person from the position that we currently have them in, even though it might not even be quite yet what we want, but it's very normal for us to do that. But those conversations, when you realize you're with a person you can have those conversations with, and you're not compromising outside of your own mental health, your own physical health, your own boundaries, when you have that, then you know that you're moving more in a healthier direction with somebody. But unfortunately, it's like what you said, we want to keep the person, but we end up keeping the wrong person. We're inauthentic. You see what I mean? So that's why 5 years down the line, I don't even like this person. I don't even like who they really are. I really don't even like somebody just told me that. Somebody just told me that. They were like, Effie, what's character? And I was like, and I was breaking down what character was. She was like, girl, I think I don't like my man. And look, have been with him for 5 years.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why I think a lot of people experience that, and I think we've talked about this before, but women go into a relationship hoping to change a man, and a man goes to a relationship hoping that the woman never changes. And ultimately, like I said before, women, we are, girl, I'm telling you, a man will change his woman before he changes his ways. He will find somebody that's willing to put up with him, and there are a lot of shenanigans that come along with him. So if you decide that this person is not for you, don't stick around thinking that you're gonna change this person. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but we already know most of the time a man is not going to change who he is from the person that you've met. And if he does decide to change, it's because he wants to, not because you've tricked him or tried to manipulate him into changing. And then we go into it letting our guard down, knowing we have our strict things. Say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And ultimately we say, okay, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to make him change how he thinks. And then ultimately you've let your guard down. You've done these things. You've gone against your own boundaries. Now you put yourself in a pickle where you sitting up here mad because this person is not changing who he is for you.
Yes, that happens all the time. That's why that saying is there, because it is real. And the problem with that, again, that I tell, because this happens with women a lot, where it's like, not a man, he'll even be unhappy and stay, right? But
because
he might end up cheating.
Well, look, we already know why you're saying it ain't. He's staying because of the comfortability of what that person provides. But whatever you're not supplying, trust me, he's probably gonna go get it from somewhere else.
Yeah. And that is a reality. And it's unfortunate because what that does, because that's where you pick the wrong person, right? You realize, okay, well, you don't realize, but you've probably picked the wrong person. You've had to become an inauthentic person in order to appease this person, which over time grows into that resentment. And then the resentment comes, and you're like, and then that's when she's like, I need you to change. Wait a minute, but I'm the same man. I've been the same man that I've been since day one.
And so I think that some people need to have that conversation too, to where you say, okay, so what are your deal breakers? What is it that you need? And sometimes some people want to be 100% honest, but if people in an ideal world, people would be 100% honest and say, okay, well, I'm not the type of person who likes to only be with one woman, or I'm not that, I'm the type of woman to where, I feel like I want to check your phone to make sure that you're not cheating on. If people would just be upfront and honest, trust me, it would save a whole bunch of heartache and breakups months and years down the line.
Right. And I will say this, there has been, you mentioned the phones, checking the phone thing, like, things like that, how people will want to do that, which is very common. I've even done it myself. I talk about it in the book and how that went. But there's also this, viral video going around right now of this chick saying how, it's now illegal to check your phone. Well, the wiretap, law or whatever it is, that came out, in 86 or so. So it's always been the case where you cannot basically legally check somebody else's phone, right? But at the same time, what we have is you have people that are doing this, and they're trying to take that into the court system and things of that nature. The reason why I mention this is because you don't want to have, you want to check your partner's character so much that you're not trying to check his phone, her phone. You know, this just happened to some friends of mine where the phone got checked and stuff like that. Like, you want to build a level of communication, but also have a level of grace that if somebody's trying to do that, you got to start having some conversations and be open to those conversations instead of being guarded, because that gives reason to think that, oh, you are doing something, you are cheating. If you start reacting from your past, people trying, blaming you or what is it, suspecting you of cheating all the time, then it's not allowing you to be open for that communication, for that conversation, for your insecure spouse to say, hey, I want to check your phone sometimes. And I feel funny about that, but the thing is that it's okay to have that conversation, like you just said. But because we are so wired to look down on that, right? Because there's such a negative connotation towards that. We don't allow the space to say, you know what, that is a very honest thing of you to say. And even though I understand how you feel, I don't honor you checking my phone. I'm not hiding anything from you, but I don't like how that makes me feel monitored. And I'm a grown woman, a grown man,
Look, you said something a minute ago. You said about a law that was passed in 1986. Look, I would be like, look, that was on a landline. This is a smartphone. Totally different situation. I'm checking it, okay? Like, no.
Right. But
this smartphone has nothing to do with that landline. Sorry. So no, that's for, I'm not checking his landline. I don't have a tap on his landline. I'm checking the cell phone. No, even though I'm not, I would never do that. But yeah, like I know I'm not checking it. They ain't nothing to do with me. So,
right. Well, that is the thing.
Justification.
Well, that is the thing, though, is that it was brought up currently in court because any electronic transference cannot be interfered with. So it actually does include in the judge.
Analog, this is digital. I debunked that one too. Nope, that was analog. Nope. This is digital. You ain't gonna get me.
But that's what this is a huge conversation around that. That's why that it was an attorney talking about it, why it went so viral, because the judge was like, no, you are actually, and then had to get on that attorney that had used stuff from a text, correspondence, and was like, hey, that was illegally gotten, that was illegally gained. So you yourself also as an attorney, y'all need to go step out the room and go fix that and get you some other attorneys to help you with this situation. So having to be, it's a thing. So the thing is that, like I said, get you somebody and have check in with each other, have the conversations with each other, have somebody that you can have the conversations with. You have to see about that. If it's somebody you feel like you can't hold those conversations with, it's not going to go good if you end up trying to check their phone or check their social media, checking their stuff, their private things in their home, anything.
So what I would say is that just to all of that, if you're not going to be okay with it down the line, don't be okay with it in the beginning, hopes that you can possibly change a person's mind, because most of the time you're not going to be able to change someone's mind who doesn't want to change.
Right.
But so let's just say that after all of that, the boogeyman effect has taken its toll and people break up, right? So when you've experienced a breakup from just the boogeyman effect or things that you've done or experienced from someone else, how can you begin to heal and move forward?
I always go to God, but not everybody does that. But I would highly recommend that, because a series of small subconscious events begin to occur. When you begin to focus on a healing and solution-driven mindset within yourself, not as a victim, but as, how am I choosing? Who am I choosing to preside in my space with, right? Who am I choosing to sit under? Who am I choosing to lay with? When you take that before God, it helps to really, you're taking that and you're thrusting your mind into a space that opens you up to remembering things that in your subconscious, this is from your subconscious. All of a sudden you have a thought of, you know what, was that really healthy for me to even choose that person? It's so minute. It's, you know what I mean? And so that's why somebody can have like all these facts, but then they still mess up with the next person, right? Because you might have came through 10 solutions, but then there's like, oh wow, I didn't realize that about myself, right? So what you do is you just constantly have a grace. You don't self-condemn. What you were about to say something?
I was going to ask you, do you have a journal that kind of walks you through this process that you're describing?
You know what? I don't specifically for that. I actually journal that myself. But
Okay.
that actually, that's partial. You have some of that actually in the sex journal. And then
What
you
about the
have
thought
a
journal?
lot of definitely in the thought journal, but not where it's specifically about, oh, my dating journey and here are my thoughts. It's, you see what I mean? It's more so the thoughts that we bring into a relationship. But girl, I might have to do that, or you do it. One of us, we can do it
You
together.
might need a Boogeyman Effect journal to where you can talk about how to navigate. And then also, so let me couple this question with that, is that because I
Yeah.
want to talk about just the mental wellness or the mind wellness tips and relationships. It's like, how can someone improve their mental wellness to avoid sabotaging relationships to where they don't end up at the breakup stage?
Self-accountability.
Mm,
If you don't have the mindset for self-accountability, then it's, you're just going to end up running over people and you're going to end up getting run over. If you're not accountable to your own boundaries, why would somebody else be accountable to your boundaries? If you don't want to, if you want to be the type of person that overlooks another person's boundaries, then how on earth do you really expect to have a loving and kind, and God blessed relationship? It's just going to be focused on self and your
mm,
own fears and your own boundaries, and you're not having an equal exchange, of decency and love. So
mm.
that's really important. Accountability, self,
So what are some things that
and
so once you
accountability to God.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
so once you break up and you decide, you've healed and you've moved on, what are some things that a person should possibly take into their next relationship just to build a stronger foundation so they don't have the same experiences that they had in the previous one and have those trust issues and take that baggage from this relationship to the next one? So let me ask that question again. What are just some of the foundational principles that you believe are key to building trust for a lasting relationship?
Communication, whether you feel secure or insecure about it, because it helps to expose or reveal the type of partner you have. If your partner is receptive, you will know that and you can come to them. And if they can be honest back, your ability to ground in reality and not with what you think, this person is going to be, not basing your reality on assumptions, always asking questions and getting clarity. These things are so important. So I actually have a small course that I'll be doing just specifically on basic communication skills that you can apply to relationships. So it also helped with that. But yeah, that's a start.
Hey, no, that was a good thing. I was going to ask you about what are some of the things that you have coming up next because you just briefly touched on the sunny day mentality, which I'm reading on your website how it says learn to control your mental weather. So, are you looking at
Yeah.
releasing another book for the sunny day mentality?
Yeah, we actually talked about that one briefly when we were talking about Wisdom in Red. But that one is actually going to be a big physical ebook, physical book, all the above. I'll end up probably doing, an audiobook with that. Like that one's my big book. These other ones, these are like Boogeyman Effect is, I tried to make that as quick a read as possible, like 109 pages. And then I've got like 3 freebies that come with that. So you'll get 20 confirmations to actually help to
Mm,
wire your mindset when you're in the moments that you might be having insecurities or suspecting your partner and your partner ain't did nothing wrong. So these are
mm,
confirmations to help you that you go to those before you start to try to go to your partner and start accusing and stuff. But I've got that. I've got my 8 tips outline, the Boogeyman 8 tips outline, that you can go to just as it's quick 8 tips that you're like, okay, am I standing on this right here? Am I making sure? So basically with the Boogeyman Effect, it's kind of just narrowing everything down into just some simple, practical mindsets, or thought processes that you're just like, oh, just remember this, remember that. Okay, boom. You could always just refer to it. So things like that, yeah. But they can go to my website and see everything that I've got for right now that can help them. But I do have more.
Put that back up there so they can see it. All right. So, um, we talk about, of course, the name of our show is Alpha Intuition. We talk about people and their intuition, and sometimes we're being led by that. But so how does that, a woman's or a person's intuition, play into the boogeyman effect? Could it be you thinking something that's not real, or how does your intuition play into this boogeyman effect scenario?
So intuition, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of us, we do have an innate understanding and feel for certain things, but sometimes we are just paranoid. Sometimes people are paranoid. This is men, women, it doesn't matter, because again, our default is going to go to I don't trust, I don't trust. And there's nothing wrong with that because it helps to protect you. But then when someone is constantly proving themselves to us, our intuition should just be saying, oh, I can begin to make steps to actively trust this person because they have shown me certain things. So we don't like to apply intuition when it means having to do some work and hold ourselves back.
Mm-hmm.
We want to practice, you know what I mean? And it's like in the beginning, it's like, okay, it served me a purpose, but now it's turning into paranoia and suspicions. And because now you're dipping into your past fears, your past experiences, or your past letdowns. So, those events, you cannot bring, past situations into the present moment and expect to actually have a future with that person that's going to be fulfilling.
So you're saying that there's a vast difference between intuition and paranoia.
And there is a vast difference between intuition and paranoia.
You think so?
Thank you.
One for the other?
Say it one more time. I was talking. Go ahead.
Do you think people confuse one for the other?
A lot, all the time. People confuse them because they seem so similar, because it's like, this is outside of me. This is to protect me. So we get the level of protection, blurred. It's protecting me so much that I'm choking myself and I'm self-sabotaging. And I'm not seeing the person that they're actually showing me to be. I'm looking at the boogeyman that I think they are, the person that they're this wonderful person, but I've turned them into this. I have given them an evil twin version of themselves, right? You're showing me the amazing king, queen person that you are. And guess what I'm showing and seeing in my head is this constant boogeyman, this monster that's going to hurt me and devour me around every corner, instead of just looking at that person for who they really are and who the character that they've shown you, the loyalty and the trust. So yeah, it's a big.
All right. So my last question here for you. So what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is in a relationship and struggling with fear or trust issues?
If you don't step out, then you don't gain wisdom, right? You can study the playbook, you can study all day long, but if you don't actually step out and learn to read people in a healthy way, and when I say read, just accepting people for who they are in front of you and then learning to be your authentic self, you're constantly setting yourself up to have reason to not trust people. Because when you step into a position with somebody and you're so busy and you're so fearful, you're not being who you really are, your natural self. Therefore, you're not getting the true person that you're really wanting. You're trying to manipulate people into being who's going to make you feel the safest, as opposed to looking at that authentic person and seeing if they are a safe person for you naturally, authentically. So you don't want anything that you have to manipulate. You need to let that person show you who they are and see if you line up with it.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yes. All right. So what if somebody wants to bring you in and talk to their team or talk to their company or talk to whatever? What are some of the services that you provide that people can go on essenceyarbrough.com for?
So yeah, if it's to read a children's book, I got my children's book on there. Yeah, so it's Mom's Not Dad But so if y'all want me to come into your school and read that, but also just having people, you know, in different organizations who are dealing with mental health, dealing with bipolar disorder, dealing with ADHD, dealing with, you know, jealousy, insecurities in relationship, not knowing how to stop suspecting, you know, stop having the insecurities, not knowing how to, you know, be their authentic selves in a relationship. So just, you know, bringing me in for those things when it comes to companies, the mindset behind the desk, you know, in the workplace, dealing with, you know, mental health and going to work, that people really need. You'd be surprised how many people really struggle with coming to work every day, you know, in their mental health and trying to do their job, parenting, things of that nature. So I come in pure gosh, just peer support for mental
Mm.
health. So all of those things. So thanks for
All right.
asking
Well,
that.
yes, no, that sounds wonderful. And I'm just looking at, I can't stop looking at your hair. It looks so gorgeous. You got these Costa Rican locks going. And I'm looking at it like, girl, you look like you're just so relaxed, so nice, so calm. It's like, it would be great to be on like a either a corporate retreat or something like that, just to listen to how you can build yourself up in your self awareness. So, you decision makers out there, you need somebody to come to a corporate retreat and talk to your team to get them all refreshed and reset. You can bring Essence
Yeah.
Yarbrough in so she can talk to them about mental health and wellness, and
Yeah.
also help them along their relationship journey and tell them stay out their partner's cell phones. But
Don't need no drama.
oh my
Need it.
goodness, but this has been such an amazing episode. I'm so happy to have my co-host back, y'all. I know she's gonna be on a world tour, doing all kind of stuff, but writing more books and everything. But guys, the Boogeyman Effect, the book is out now. I'll drop the link down in the comments so that you guys can get where to go, see where to go buy it. And then also don't forget about her other book, Wisdom in Red. And then one of those journals, you can get the sex journal, but y'all can get some of them other journals too. She's got several journals on there. Sure, one of them will work for you, even if it's
Oh
just
my
a thought.
God.
Well, this has been an amazing episode. So I hope you guys found these topics about the Boogeyman Effect to be helpful on your journey to becoming the CEO of your life. And once again, you guys know we love hearing from our listeners. So if you have any questions or topics that you want us to discuss on future episodes, please drop us a link or leave us a comment. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave us a review because we like to hear what you guys say, whether it's good or bad. Hopefully, more good than bad. But you can connect with us on social media. You'll see mine is Keisha the Electrician or Keisha _ the Electrician. And then Essence, you can find her at Essence Yarbrough on all of her platforms as well. So you guys remember, the journey to the top of any mountain begins with one single step. Don't stop. Keep climbing. Thank you all for joining Alpha Intuition. And you guys already know, keep that energy. Peace.